This week, a 21-year-old member of the Massachusetts Air National Guard was arrested for allegedly leaking classified military intelligence. Police say that Jack Teixeira used the handle Jack the Dripper, very good, on a chat platform to leak the highly sensitive information. The information includes secrets about Ukrainian military planning and classified details about allies. Joining us to discuss the story all the way from Morocco is Ami Horowitz. Ami, great to see you. What on earth? We'll get on to Jack the Dripper in a second, but what are you doing in Morocco?
I'm here on vacation with my family. You know, it's actually really interesting. There's this new trend going on where there's having these Passover programs all throughout Morocco, and I ended up joining one of them. And what's fascinating about it is that, you know, Morocco had, this highlights an interesting thing. An interesting thing in Jewish history was Morocco had hundreds of thousands of Jews. And everybody talks about Jews, quote unquote, expelling Arabs from their lands. But let's not forget the millions of Jews who were expelled from Muslim and Arab lands all across the Middle East and Northern Africa. And this is one example of that. Morocco had hundreds of thousands of Jews who were expelled in the 40s and 50s. And now there seems to be a renaissance of Jews coming back for these Passover vacations. And this is why I'm here. It's quite fascinating.
Fantastic. And were they expelled at gunpoint? Were they expelled by, from villages? How did the original expulsions take place?
It was under the threat of violence, for sure. They were said, you're going to leave or you'll be killed. And they were thrown out with, remember, the Jews in Morocco, as they were across the Middle East and Northern Africa, were very, very successful business people and professionals. And all of their wealth was stripped from them, and they were tossed out. And of course, the only place in the world that would take them was the state of Israel.
Extraordinary. Rita.
Reminds me of that famous clip of Hillel Neuer at the UN asking all these countries, where are your Jews? You had all these Jews, where are your Jews? You don't have any anymore. But I want to ask you firstly about President Joe Biden. He's finally making announcements about running again. Very clumsy to begin with, but what is that going to look like? Is he going to face a significant challenge? Is Gavin Newsom gunning for his job?
Yeah, it's very fast. I mean, we all knew he was going to run again, obviously. What it does highlight is the paucity of bench players the Democratic Party has. No, Gavin Newsom will not challenge him. Gavin Newsom knows that will be it won't work for him. He's waiting until 2028. I think Mary Williamson right now is the only person who has announced that she will run against him. But I think, you know, you look, it's interesting. He's saying this now as his poll numbers are just continue to plummet. He's at 43%, which I'll point out is only 3% higher than Jimmy Carter, arguably the worst president this country ever had. And if you take a deep dive in the numbers, that 43% is actually not that bad compared to the other maybe more important numbers. He's down 2-1 in independents. He's down, he won 90% of the black vote. He's now under 60% on black people saying he has done a good job. He's incredibly underwater. And actually that 43% may actually overstate his electoral prospects because of the people who have actually approved of his job approval. Only 90% of them said they would vote for them or he should be reelected. So it's actually even worse than that 43%. So it's not looking good for him yet, and they know that. Yet he's the only game in town for the Democrats. Just shows the state of the Democratic Party.
James.
Ami, I got to ask you about these leaks that have been coming out, and all the newspapers have been talking about them and all the revelations. How does somebody, though, like this Teixeira guy wind up at 21 years old with a top secret security clearance where he's able to get data from all of these different agencies? And the thing that I have to wonder is, could there have been kind of an accidentally on purpose allowing him to get some of these documents, because they certainly do paint a picture of American foreign policy that's not exactly what we've been being told by the media in terms of Ukraine, about the general support for that, and a whole number of other issues. I mean, I'd love to hear you talk to that.
Yeah, it's actually quite fascinating on a whole set of levels. So first of all, I think this guy, Teixeira, I think speaks poorly of Gen Z in general, where he was caught at his mommy's house. And of course, he was leaking on gaming sites. But putting that aside for a moment, it is quite worrying that a guy at such a relatively low level, right? He was now, working for the National Guard at a relatively low level at 21 years old, was able to get his hands on these things. Look, I'm not going to speak to a conspiracy theory on whether or not he was able to get it on purpose. I think the more fascinating part of this is the reaction to what is happening. So let's be clear, first of all, and two things could be happening at once. So first of all, it is clearly that he is a despicable human being, sharing American secrets, damaging American security, knowing he was going to do that. And of course, the revelations came out that he's a racist and a Semite. And I find it even more despicable that a member of Congress, Taylor Greene, came out in support of him. I think it's a terrible thing. This is not a good dude. This is not a guy who should be supported. Having said that, I do find the media reaction to this very, very interesting and very, very telling. They have gone all out on him, as they should, yet they didn't do the same thing with Chelsea Manning, right? In fact, he was even pardoned by Barack Obama. He has become now a hero, or she has become a hero of the state, as opposed to Teixeira. And it's clear because Teixeira has been seen to be more of a right-wing or right-leaning person, libertarian, a gun lover. And so I think the reactions are fascinating. And they went all out to find this guy, as they should. But again, two things can be correct at once. They have not seemed to have gone all out to find, for example, the IRS leaker, the leaker of the Supreme Court ruling.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
They haven't gone and prosecuted the leaker of secret information on the Chinese spy balloon info that was leaked out to the world. So I just find the different levels of outrage fascinating and very telling on how the media is viewing this entire episode.
Well, Ami, don't worry about conspiracy theories, because this week's conspiracy theory is next week's news facts. That's the way it tends to go, or certainly in 6 months' time. Borders are racist, Ami. Let's just have a quick look at this particular clip.
I think a border is racist.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
I agree.
Yes.
I'm going to keep walking. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
No question about it.
No.
So there, I recognise Ami Horowitz at work. They're amongst the woke brigades. Question, tell us about it, Ami. You asked them if borders, so meaning, state borders or national borders or federal borders or anything, are racist. Look at the response you got. Tell us about it, Ami.
Yeah, another example of how when I'm sitting on my couch having a glass of scotch, conceiving the idea, thinking to myself, come on, nobody's actually going to say we shouldn't have borders, right? Look, if you ask me why I do what I do, it's because I'm trying to have, if you ask people left of center, does the hard left, that's what I'm going after, the hard left, right? Not the center left. Does the hard left believe in transing 9-year-olds? They believe in the destruction of capitalism. They believe in open borders. The center left will say, this is right-wing Sky News, Fox News talking points. This is not reality. My job is to show the center left they're wrong. Their quote-unquote fellow travelers truly believe this horrific anti-American, spewing this horrible anti-American rhetoric. And that's what I'm here to show, that in fact, the hard left does believe that we should have open borders because they hate this country. And that's not a trope. That is absolute fact. The hard left hates, despises the structures of this country. And what's more of a structure of a country than a border? And they would like to see the destruction of our borders so anybody can come in or out as they please.
Absolutely. Ami Horowitz, we've got to leave it there. People can see your clips online. Ami Horowitz's brilliant little films. They're so good, and you get out there and you expose what's really going on in the so-called mind of the hard left.